Well, g'day guys, and welcome to the very first episode of The Legacy Forge, a podcast that has no scripts, no rehearsed answers. This is completely on the go, and no polished success stories. This is a conversation that's unveiling a journey around fractures into the fire and the forge that shapes unbreakable. We're not here for a highlight reel. Nobody likes watching highlights, yeah? We're here for the war, the battle, the duck's guts that most fellas are too scared to talk about. When the world you built crumbles, when the fire burns everything you thought you were, when you're left with nothing but the raw truth, who do you become? This is the forge. This is the fire. Step in. Let's go. I just want to welcome, this is a celebrational podcast, my best mate and longtime friend Mark Murray to the show. He's the founder of Brisbane Hiking Adventures, an amazing hiking adventure where he takes people out on adventures and teaches life skills through different skill levels of mountains. And I've been on a hell of a few myself, and it's awesome with the teachings at different levels and different layers. So let's get into it. Hey Mark, so just introduce yourself out there. Who are you, where you're from? Just share a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you so much for that, Craig. Appreciate it, man. It's definitely been a long time coming. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Mark Murray. I am the founder of Brisbane Hiking Adventures. I hail originally from far north Queensland in Cairns. Grew up around Cairns, sort of Townsville, Innisfail way. So I'm being fairly localised, as it would say, from North Queensland. Cairns is a very beautiful spot, known globally for the Great Barrier Reef. But one thing that's starting to become more known for now is the mountains. Many hiking trails up there. There are many world-class hiking locations in the far north and North Queensland at large as well. Townsville is a place that I grew up in, and between Ingham and Townsville it resides one of the biggest waterfalls in Australia, over 200 metres. So it is some really, it's a playground where I've learnt and developed skills over time. Now, how, you might ask, Brisbane Hiking Adventures come about is basically it came about as a result of a breakdown in a marriage, as you do, and it put a lot of strain and what's that, sorry?
Did you see it coming?
Look, I did. In no certain terms, I did see it coming, and I took responsibility for that part. I think for me, I was very fortunate enough to do the work, and for me, hiking was part of the work. I was very distracted. I was running around, Star Trek deliveries, things like that, and it took a lot out of me. And hiking was a tool, basically, to get back to nature, to be able to relax, to be able to wind down, and not be so, I guess, on edge, you know what I mean? So out of that, I created a hiking group where it was an opportunity for like-minded individuals to come together and just get out on the trails, you know. It's been well documented and studied that being on trails and being amongst nature, reconnecting, gives us the opportunity to improve our mental health, improve the energy that we have, take in good energy and expel the bad energies as well, and to be able to function in life, and that's really the most important part. Now, my background, I've spent many years as a firefighter. Currently with the Rural Fire Service now, but I've been a firefighter since the age of 22. Main firefighter in Cairns, and spent a few years there and stepped away, and then I've been a rural firefighter since 2019. So I've definitely seen, picked up, learned a lot of skills in my time as a firefighter, and these skills have transferred to hiking, and it has given me the opportunity to learn how to lead not just groups of people, but also see how people lead other people, but also lead myself. And the most important part is being able to lead yourself, being able to understand, okay, every decision has a consequence, or for every consequence there is an action, right? Like if you make a wrong move and you slip a little bit, that's a consequence of not putting your hand or your foot in the right place. So yeah, my role now is to try and I put on a lot of group hikes once a month, and it sort of blew up over COVID, with COVID coming in and creating problems. As you would have seen, Craig, in your in your, I guess, your situation being a delivery driver as well, like myself. And even outside of that arena, a lot of people were at home, they were in lockdown, the mental health problems were quite, like they were pretty well documented, I would say, and a lot of people wanted to get out and about. And that's how I've grown my group on the back end of COVID. And, well, actually, this happened before COVID, but COVID sort of sped that along a little bit. Today, we're just on 9,000 members. We got all people from all walks of life. We got hikers that have done a little bit and stepped away for a while, like myself, come back, wanting to reconnect, which I really commend because it does take a lot to come back. We've also got brand new hikers looking to experience the trails, to experience what we experienced hikers feel all the time and get a part of and feel. But the most important thing, the one thing that's more special to me, Craig, is we've got a lot of people coming to see this incredible country, right? And it's these people that are coming from places like Brazil, Colombia, many places. And it's not just South America, we got Southeast Asia and places like that. They're all coming to Australia. They're wanting to see what these places are like. But the thing is that when you go to a place, it's hard to experience nature there because you don't know. I mean, Australia, you look at Australia, there are 10 different snakes that could kill you. There are multiple different ways that you can get into trouble. And having someone with that local knowledge, having someone with that ability to create something, to be able to do something that is inclusive of everybody, not just Aussies, but everybody, it's an opportunity. We're not just tackling the mental health situation here. We're going into other things like acceptance, learning different cultures, learning the way other people do things, because we ultimately become better for it. So as
being
you'll
the communal
move
species that we are, we learn.
Yeah,
we learn
definitely.
Tribe and community.
Absolutely.
That's right. So coming back to your story, there's always a moment when the illusion. So when you were married, would you say you were living some sort of illusion by default, looking back? Or was it design?
Well, that's a good question. Look, in terms of did I think things were going to be good for a while? Yeah, I did. But then the curtain drew back, and the curtain drew back in my life, and I look back and I've gone, okay, this shit's not going to happen. Like this is big, There's no room for growth. There is an energy that, and I'm not going to sit here and, put someone's name in the mud. Like, I've moved on, I've learnt that, and being with a bigger person is just moving away from negative energy, negative patterns, At the time, I thought it was sort of like an illusion, you could say. Yeah, definitely, I thought something would, things would be good for the moving forward, but it is what it is. Being able to identify it and seeing it and pull the trigger, it is, we just got to move on with our life. But it helped me to work on myself as well and become more mature from it.
As men, that's part of the journey, right? The illusions that we are somewhat conditioned to abide by, go to school, get good grades, marriage, settle down, have the 2.5 or 3 kids and whatever, life goes on, that's it. When that illusion cracks, the world we supposedly built or is built for us starts to crack. It explodes and the identity shifts, it collapses. When that moment hit, did you fight to hold on to that, or did you accept the collapse?
No, I've always been a big believer in change. If you need to change is, some people, there's 2 types of people. You're either going to embrace change and go with it, or people are going to fear change and be how would I say it? They're going to be the sort of people that are going to fight, and they're the people. Like, the best example I can give is when I worked in a delivery run space. I worked for Star Trek for the better part of 7 years. There was a point where I was employed basically to fill in for runs. That was constant change, consistent change, different timelines, different deadlines. You just adapt, and we're in this world now where we have to adapt. I mean, look at the advent of AI in business. That's the perfect example. Those who adapt and execute early will be better for it. Those who don't, I'm sorry, but
that's right. Most of us,
the writing's on the wall.
We tend to cling on to the ruins of the past. Too scared, too afraid. And that may not necessarily be our fault. because of the generations behind us and who's taught us, but it's our responsibility to adapt, to become that chameleon. Although we must come forward from that fear to face the truth, no matter how much of an impact that truth may have. But once we rise, we can learn to face the wreckage head on. And you've certainly done that. As I've known you over the years, you've risen, you've questioned your surroundings, and you've come forward out of that into something greater, and that's helped the catalyst to fight, the war within. Because pain doesn't forge everyone. Some of us fellas let it bury us. What made you different?
One of the biggest things about me is I guess that come from early in life. I guess what I could say is that I have a condition, a medical condition known as PKU, or phenylketonuria. PKU's for short. Now, I was misdiagnosed with this, So, in an early age, at 17 months of age, babies can walk, talk, function to a degree, right? Now, my parents were concerned because the tests showed that I wasn't able to function at that age. And my brother was born, and they picked him up straight away with PKU. Now, a long story short, they misdiagnosed me, and then they realized that there was some issues, and there was a lot of work to try and fix that. My parents went through unbelievable adversity when I was young, and it was only later in life when I started to realize that, and I was just like, fuck, like how is these two people able to do that? Now, if you put an extreme adversity like that in modern day today, how many people do you think would rise to the occasion, or how many people would falter? I've been constant. I had an opportunity. Another example, Craig. No, not at all. And there was an opportunity earlier, a few years ago, so I did attempt to join the fire service full time, and unfortunately there were some issues that come out of that, which, to make things shorter, I sort of passed through all my exams and tests and got into the merit pool, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I get a call, an email saying, thanks for your participation, however, we're not going to proceed with the application. Naturally I was upset, naturally I was disappointed, because it's like so many people, and I wasn't just one of them. There's like many, many others too, were in the same boat as me, and it was confusion. It was like, we did the work, we busted our asses to get there, and you know how competitive this is, right? Now, I was talking to a psychologist all the time, and you know what, I can sit here and freely state, hand on heart, I still talk to a psychologist every day, because, well, not every day, but regularly, because that's just how we function, right? And after we went through, for a while, I had a few dramas, few issues where I was kind of really not happy, and I was really just annoyed, and the people that I was helping at the time, they all got through, and they've all been admitted, and now they're fireys, which I'm proud of those guys, because they worked so hard, and together as a collective, we helped each other out. Just unfortunate I didn't get through, but that's okay. Like, I'm super pumped for them. I was told after that by the psychologist that most people with that adversity would have just given up, like would have crushed them, would have been depressed, would have been, their identity, would have been taken away from them. For me, I had the opportunity and going, okay, yes, shit happens. And this is coming back from adversity. And to answer your question succinctly, Craig, it was the same thing with my marriage breakdown. And it come back from seeing that, being a part of that, being raised with that, not knowing until later on in life, where my parents had to deal with adversity and a whole magnitude of many other things. If kids are born with PKU today, there's support groups, there's opportunities to grow, there's abundance of information everywhere, and that resilience to be able to get to that point has made me to who I am today. Like, now, people get scared, and if parents of kids have PKU now, yes, of course they'd be scared, but they have a lot more information, a lot more services, support, etc. Whereas my parents back then, in 87, they didn't have a lot, So I think it was ingrained, to be quite honest.
Yeah, modelling certainly plays an important role in our life as kids. And it certainly pays off later in life when we hit our 30s, when we transition to that next phase of our life, and when stuff tends to come up from the past. History, the old saying, history repeats itself. It certainly does. And that comes from a resourceful and both an unresourceful manner. And adversity certainly plays a point, or a big part. As modern men today, we've got a comfort crisis. A majority of men barely know how to change a spare tyre on a car, let alone climb a mountain. They're not equipped with the skills. It's not their fault. It's how they've been modelled that's had the impact of who they are today. That makes sense? Well, you can jump on a phone app these days and
definitely.
Roadside service to get your tyre done. You don't have to do things yourself. Unlike back in the 80s where technology was just being birthed and everything was still very regimented and manual labour. They had a lot more manual influence. Like the internet barely existed.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe even a telegram back then. I mean, I remember going to school and having a very, very baseline internet in the early 90s, but that was it. Nothing compared to today. The old man.
No, definitely.
Still taught you life
this is the thing too, Craig. Absolutely. And see, this is the thing too. Like a lot with the advent of AI, even you look at industries, you look at jobs. Man, it makes me feel older and it kind of gets on my age a little bit, like we got AI now where we got, you look at innovation and people go, shit, this is, before it was like, it was done a certain way, like you said, right? And it just played it out. Whereas now innovation, it's everywhere. There's AI making smaller businesses, giving small businesses the opportunity to take on companies that have been around forever and a day, like big name players, just with AI straight up. You got people now, there's jobs that are like drone pilots now, I had a feeling that back in probably 2015, drones would be the next big thing. And now they're becoming licensed and becoming commercialized. They're starting to become the norm, But you're right, and the way in which society is, a lot of people are going from that. Like, it's scary, but it's the way it's happening, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. I mean, fortunately for us kids born in the mid-'80s and '90s, we've had a taste of the old world, the world we were risen in, and the new world where we're pivoting off. We're not like these baby boomers and Gen Zers where we're born straight away almost with an iPad or a iPhone in our hands. Coming out of the mum. We had that opportunity to experience life. Well, I know I certainly did growing up on the land. Not having TV till I was almost in my teens. Didn't know what that was. It was always get outside after school and go find something to do and do chores.
That's it. Absolutely. I was that age too, And this is the thing, there are programs now with a lot of places, even schools are starting to recognise now that nature education or outdoor education is becoming critical. It's becoming key. If you go into any corporate business right now and you talk about leadership, you get some bullshit thing coming out of, you'll get someone quoting you a leadership thing. But when it comes to leadership in the front line, what it looks like, it's different. For example, myself and you, used to play with kids. I played sports for years, team sports. There's leadership right there. And it's not just, okay, you're the captain or you're the designated leader. No. To be a good leader, you have to be a good follower, right? You have to understand, because leaders can't see everything. And no one's going to be able to see everything coming at any one time. So there's self-leadership. And then there's also the structural, hierarchical sort of leadership. And, I see a lot of people, I'm a leadership expert, and they might have a lot of experience and stuff. But then I see leadership in terms of firefighting aspects, where if a decision you make is wrong, there's two outcomes that are catastrophic. People will die, or properties will be lost. Both in which are in the same category as catastrophic. So I look at it and I think that, and all of that, I believe, stems back from our ability to be outside, interacting with each other, linking, being a mesh. And when I go on group hikes, right, I might have the experience and stuff, I might facilitate the event, but I'm listening to every single one of those people, because everyone in our group, right, I don't care if someone is not fit or just doing this for the first time, or you're wanting to get to the top, okay? Fine. You got a position, you're at a starting point. And I respect the person who is at the back just as much, and sometimes more, that I respect each one equally, right? But I give the most respect to someone who's starting out, who is not fit, but using the mountains to get fit. You know, I've seen over the years when people have done hiking, and I've seen people lose 30, 40 kilos over a space of 6 months just doing that. So, you know, and they weren't just losing weight, they were transforming their lives. Their mental health was really good. They had an energy. You could see it, you know. And this is what
Certainly.
we're missing in this day and age.
Self-leadership and they call it crisis leadership is the corporate term for all the listeners out there who are in business and do work in that corporate environment. It's what you do under pressure to govern your leadership. It's those immediate decisions that may or may not have a resourceful or unresourceful impact. Now, an example, it could be turning a business around in a matter of 24 hours or facing foreclosure. It could be dealing with a workplace accident or a workplace emergency. It could be an act of God, you know, floods, nature or something coming through, or fires. That amount of crisis leadership, it is a niche sort of arena and is not really explored in that corporate leadership market. It's more the generalised leadership. Leadership's forged. It's forged through experience. And I'm not saying don't go out and create disasters, but it's forged under that pressure. Climbing a mountain's a perfect example. One wrong slip and you're gone, particularly if it's you know, a decent sized mountain trail, or if you're not switched on, you know, a snake might jump out and grab you, for instance. And we're in a country that we've got multiple species of snakes that will kill you, and other creepy crawlies if we're not fully aware. And if you're in the wrong country, we've got certain size reptiles that'll take us to in the water, and sharks. It's that crisis leadership. It's being fully aware at a 5D sort of glance. So most of us generally retreat, and this is where the comfort zone comes in. We're creating a comfort society or a soft society. When the fire gets too hot, we run, we cower. You didn't cower. You showed resilience through your divorce. You showed resilience through your PKU. You showed resilience, and you never gave up right through that fight of getting into the auxiliary fire services. Even though their recruitment process swept you out, and you did your best with what you had and the resources that you had in the moment and gave it everything. So it basically tempered you. Most fellas would be destroyed by that. Their whole identity would have been so focused on getting in that, and then when that rejection were to come along, it would have destroyed them, and they wouldn't have been able to pivot into something else.
And that's it. And it's what you just said, those last three words. Absolutely. What you're saying is pivot into something else. The thing is, most of the time is a lot. I'll give you an example of a friend of mine, and my friend is when he told me, I actually felt his energy. I felt his elation, his joy, his overwhelm. But I had a friend of mine from North Queensland, in Innisfail, and his name's Ray. And he applied 7 times for the Q Fire Service, right? Now, Queensland Fire Service, he applied 7 times. When I was going through the process, it was his 7th time. It was his last opportunity, right? And we went through the same process. We got into the same merit pool, and we were just sort of pumped, It was great. He told me he got in, and I was like shocked. And I think he just found out, and he was in shock himself. After 7 years, he persisted and he got in. And the energy that I felt from him, and the way in which he was saying, mate, I was so blown away. I was super stoked for him. It was something that you could have almost feel the way he was feeling, and it was really interesting. The thing is that people's identity is always forged on one thing. For me, I looked at it from a mature point of view, and I thought, okay, I could be locked in with this, and this is something that keep going, and keep applying. And I have applied a couple more times, unfortunately, and things have changed since that intake. But the thing for me is that I realized something. My identity wasn't linked to a particular job or a particular process. I changed, and the words in which you just say, to quote you just now, is I pivoted and changed. I've always been doing hiking. I've always been doing that since I was younger. I've done abseiling as well. This group is an opportunity to build, to grow something, to have an impact in some way, And it might be a 1% thing, or it might be 10%. depending on the person. But I've always had people say to me, the one thing that I've enjoyed about hiking with you is you're patient. You make it fun, you make it enjoyable, but you're patient. You're not trying to rush, you're not trying to race to the top. And this is the thing, in life, we're always trying to race to be the first one there. And look in business, sometimes you need to race to be the first to adapt, the first to thing. It's competition, it's rule 101. However, sometimes the journey is just as important. The journey is the definitive part. And going back to what I was saying before, there is a lot of hikers in our group that are going there to change their fitness goals and things like that. I applaud you for having a crack at doing a steep mountain and taking your sweet ass time. You get to the top, that is absolutely insane. I had a friend of Manuela's, and both myself and her, but more her, and she just did we just did a group hike last weekend. And she made it, and it was the very first mountain in Australia, right? And I was sitting there going, wow, she wasn't fit. She was, she was taking the time. She was having breaks every minute. And I was encouraging her to just take your time, be enjoying the process. She enjoyed the process more than the actual destination. But when she got to the top, the destination was a reward, and that's reinforcing the work. And that's what we need to do these days, is have that reward to reinforce the work.
Definitely. Step one, start with that outcome in mind. Look at that bottom of the mountain, I'm going to get to the top regardless. Mm-hmm. Outcome in mind, end in mind. No matter what the mountain is.
Yeah, man.
Start with the end in mind.
I mean, look at you, mate. Like, I remember when you were, 140, 150 kilos, and you did Mount Tibrogargan, and my friends were like, Jesus, this guy, he's crazy, or he's got a death wish. And I was thinking, shit, I hope he gets up and down, because I don't want to be calling Rescue 500 to come and haul your ass off that side of the mountain. But you know what I realised then is that, and I've only looked back on this now, man, you lost a shit ton of weight. You've gone through you've gone down to the darkest depth. You come back out yourself, and now you're at a point where you're on this health and wellness journey as well, right? And the one thing that inspired me was, you did it. You were shit scared. You were holding on like a cat, holding on to like a curtain, like with claws dug in. Do you remember that? And my friends were like, mate, his heart rate was punching 200 beats a minute. I was like, I hope this guy's not going to have a cardiac incident here, because that's all I bloody need. But to your resilience, you come down, I remember your shorts torn to shit at the back. I don't know how bad it was. Didn't want to look, but but I was just here. I'm thinking, going, okay, he did it. And every time I've told that story since, they're just like, fuck, are you serious? And I'm just like, yeah, no, this guy just did it. He did it. A lot of people told him he couldn't do it. A lot of people told him he shouldn't probably do it. I mean, I'll probably be the first to admit that I've probably thought, mate, I don't know if you can do it. But you even proved me wrong. So, and this is the reason why I do group hikes, because you got guys like you, ladies like Andressa. There's I can pick up another 6 other people that have been in the same boat. Didn't think they could do the thing. They went and did the thing, So, that's what it's about.
It kind of reminds me of some of the army training that I've done in the sort of last couple of years. It's the mind, the subconscious mind and the conscious mind have the natural defense mechanisms, or the resistance. So when we're faced with something, say physical, and the pain receptors of the mind flare up, it's really the mind saying that, hey, I don't want to get uncomfortable. And this is where the military kicks in and goes, no, we've got to push beyond those pain receptors, because the body is physically so much more capable of more beyond those pain receptors. Now that comes with a bit of gauge. I mean, if someone's suffering and about to injure themselves or tear a lat muscle or something, yeah, stop. But if it's general fear, anxiety, being scared, glued to a side of a cliff, it's like, okay, well, let's break it down and slowly and gradually overcome this anxiety moment. And that's what I certainly did on Tibro, and I did on Flinders Peak, where I freaked out one day going down the caves. But yeah, we got through it. We certainly got through it.
You
It's
did.
a perfect example of becoming
You
unbreakable
did,
and
and I
pushing.
think the thing is, and sometimes you need to be in those positions too. And see, the thing is that when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you need to have a coach. You need to have someone who's done the thing that you want to do and move you from point A to point B. The one thing I'm really quite impressed about is you listened, you did the work, and you listened, and you know, you put your feet. Sometimes I was like, Craig, don't turn your feet. I had to slap your foot because your feet, like, you gotta go like that, but you're kind of going like this, and I'm like, oh, bro, other way, come on. But no, honestly, I think when you get out of your head and you move through that, you realize how strong you are. And I think the weight thing as well. You're on your health journey. You've lost a lot of weight now, so I think it's a lot different. Like when you realize you're a lot healthier and a lot fitter, that's half the problem, right? Because you carried 140 kilos, right? Correct me if I'm wrong anywhere here, Tibro and down, right? If you were to do that today, you'd be able to do it so much better and more confidently. Would you have the mental, would you be mentally sort of, don't know? Of course you would. Reptilian brain, it doesn't change, right? But I can sit here now confidently and say, Craig, put your foot here, put your hand here. And I don't have to worry about you being like, not sure if, worrying about your heart or you're worrying about other things, because I can go, okay, he can do this because he's been training his ass off. You know what I mean? And that's when you feel like you're moving to a point. But
It's the mental energy
it
that
comes
saps
down
you
with
on
everybody.
those
Like
mountains.
absolutely.
It's that
And that's what
anxiety,
training, that's what physical training does is.
It's certainly a lesson in certainty. To climb any mountain, let alone be Tibro or Biwa, even some of the smaller ones, even Nagungun to an extent, there has to be some sort of certainty. Most men wait for certainty, and this is where accidents happen, particularly in the moment where you're on the edge of the cliff. They're waiting for that moment before they act. When did you learn that action creates certainty?
Look, I think that this is the thing. Is a very good question actually, and I've got a really good story to answer that one. So I'll tell you about my first time climbing Biwa. Mount Biwa, as you know, is a Goliath mountain in the Glasshouse Mountains, and that's in the Sunshine Coast region of Queensland. Now, it stands about 569 metres above sea level. There is a part at the beginning of it called, the locals dub it, called the slab. Now, for the better part of that, the slab is a sheer rock face with minimal handholds. Almost feels like nothing, and to the untrained eye, it probably is nothing. There's a couple of areas about halfway up that we've dubbed the fish bowls, because they look like fish bowls, right? From millions, thousands of years of erosion with rock. The rock's been worn away with water in it, right? Now, I can remember the first time I did it. It was early, actually. It was in the early hours of the morning. I was going up to do the sunrise with some friends at the time. Well, a guy that I knew from Cairns. He's not much of a friend now, to be quite honest, and I'll explain why in a moment. But anyway, so I'm rushing there, get there. The guys had already left, so I'm like rushing in, as you do, trying to get to the bottom. So I'm not going up this bloody thing on my own. Get there anyway. So get there, and I'm like having a quick breather. Get to the base, and I'm like gassed because I didn't realise I was going uphill and a whole heap of stairs as well, right? Get to the bottom, I'm gassed, sucking in the big ones. I'm like, alright guys, I'm here, just give us a sec. And then they're like, oh, we gotta go because of the sunrise. I'm like, damn, righto, okay. Makes sense, right? Anyway, so they shoot up. And the biggest thing about BOR is once you get to the fish bowls, people get freaked out there. They don't know, they don't know where to put their hands, they don't know where to put their feet, they don't have any nothing. They got no information to be able to work with, right? And so anyway, I've gone and done this, and I'm like, okay, no worries. Get to the fishbowl, felt okay. Look down. Is at that point where you look, you know how you look back and you go, and you look down and you go, fuck, that feels like a long way up, right? If I slip here, I'm not gonna die, of course not, but I am gonna hurt myself. I would say I'll probably cut myself maybe a little bit, give myself a graze or two. And I'm thinking, I ain't doing that shit. This is 4 a.m. in the morning. This is probably 4:45 in the morning. I got a torchlight, so mentally speaking, I'm only looking at this beam of light, right? And I'm kind of glad too, but kind of glad that way, because had I actually understood the depth and the height correctly, I would have been like, oh, this is not good. Anyway, so the guys have started moving off, And I've gotten to this point, and my mate, the guy that I know from Cairns, my mate, he's like talking to me and saying, put your hand here, put your hand there. And I tried to get up. I'm like, damn. And anyway, he goes, look, I'm going to keep going. I've got to keep going. I'm like, oh. And I'm just like, yeah, that was strange. Like, you're going to leave me here. Righto. So he left, right? And I'm sitting here stuck going, right, do you know what? I'm not going to be the guy that's going to have an accident. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to fall. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to turn around. So it was a moment in time where I was like, fuck it, let's do it. We just got to do something, right? So I did. And I started to move my way through it. And just persistence and that, I got through it. And I kept going. And then after that, it was a long climb. Like, I'm not going to lie. After that, it was a lot easier and a lot better. But there were some parts when you get up so you get up past the slab, and then you got like a ledge of rock, right? And then that's where the goat track is, the head of the goat track. It's the easier way to come down, which incidentally on the way down we did, because no one goes down the slab unless they're very experienced. Anyway, keep going up, get to the second level. There's another second ledge, and then that goes into like a part where it's a lot steeper, very good handholds at this point. At that point in my mind, because it was still under dark and I was still operating the torchlight, I was like, focus on the torchlight, hands, feet, right? Powered through it. Didn't have a problem then. Get up there. You know what? I missed the sunrise probably by like 5 minutes. I was like, fuck it. Don't care about the sunrise. I mean, because I was put in a position where I shouldn't have been put in. I had no experience in my mind, right? But I powered through, all right? And then at that point, I started to realize, wow, can you imagine how many people have been in that situation and been stuck there because they haven't had the right information, the right coaching, the right movements to get through it? Probably a lot, right? Anyway, so I'm getting to this point, I'm like, I've gone up, seen the boys come down, we're coming down, went down the normal way. By the end, got to the bottom, all good. Coming down was fine, no dramas. Because I was in the daylight, I was actually able to see where I was going. The gravity, once I get to that part of that's atop that slab, I looked down and the gravity hit me. It sort of started to hit me. I was like, wow, I just did that. And you know, when you think about it, and it's funny, Craig, because ever since I started, and it sort of stuck me, my mind, I was like, didn't want to do it, didn't want to go there. Anyway, a few months later, it was around Christmas time actually, get a message from a mate. She goes, Mark, we're going to do East Biwa. And I'm like, okay, all right. At this point, I only done the Biwa tourist track, right? One time, by myself, just. All right, we're going to do East, and it's going to be a bit sketchy and all like this and that and the other. I bought TX4s then around that time. Best investment I've ever had. They're still going today, 5 years later. I need to get a new set, but they're worth their money, and I know you bought some, so I guarantee you'll enjoy that.
Little Spider-Man shoes.
Yeah, Spider-Man shoes, exactly. So anyway, I'm doing this climb on the East Biwa. Everything's going the plan quite well. I had a good group. I was the most inexperienced one there, and I wasn't freaking out. I had a good group. I had good people that stayed around, and I was looking at them like, these guys are good. Yeah, these guys are good. There's a gentleman there. What was his name? I forget his name off the top of my head. But he's a nice guy. He helped me. He goes, look, Mark, stand up. You need to trust your shoes. This is the point where I've just bought these TX4s. Bloody you know. I needed to learn how to trust them, right? So I stood there. He held my hand. He said, stand there. Squat, just being like a semi-squat. Just sit there. Stand there. He let go of my hand, and I was just standing there. I wasn't slipping. I wasn't moving. I was on a very steep part, probably steeper than that, but a lot grippier. I sat there and I held. So anyway, we climbed up to the top, come down. There's a couple other group climbs over the next couple of months where we had to do the slab, and that's what got me. Anyway, they taught me how to do the slab, and then I built up the confidence and I started doing the slab. It was probably maybe a couple more times after that, and I started doing the solo runs. I can tell you what, solo up the slab, that's an interesting thing. But these pivotal moments is what set me up for the way I ran my group hikes moving forward. Because I was definitely not going to leave someone abandoned on the most vulnerable point. And now I've always made it a habit when I do beginner climbs on Biwa. Those who get past the slab, I say, all right, come up here, hold my hand, stand up. I've done it quite a few times before. And I've got people to stand up, and I've just said, look around, take in the view, breathe. They breathe, they take it in, they realize, wow, that's the hardest part. And I congratulate them, and I tell them that's the hardest part, and you've just smashed that. You did the work. I'm just here to help you through it. And it's at that point when they realize, the realization is, holy shit, I've just done that. Their mindset changes. They just bang, 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 bang. You know, I had one lady, most notable person is one lady. She climbed, she did this. She was that scared, she peed herself. But after that point, she was just like, you know, she's like, holy shit. Once she got down to the bottom, she was changed, different. You know, emotional, crying, tears. Like, you did so good. You helped me. I've just found myself here. I don't know what it was. And I said, that's because you helped yourself. I was just here to see you through it. And you got witnesses. You got 7 other people that witnessed this. So you didn't bullshit yourself. You didn't bullshit me. And you didn't bullshit anyone else. So, and that's how it's all come, just from these pivotal moments, especially with me.
That's right. That's right. So would you say that very first time you went up Biwa, you weren't rebuilding the old, you were creating something no one could take from you, going through all those emotions yourself? Because to teach others, right, you have to experience something for yourself, yeah?
Of course. Of course. Yeah, definitely. I think you've said this to me before, man, and there's been a few others. You can't teach something if you haven't done it.
Exactly.
If you
the
haven't
greatest shift isn't survival, it's transformation, yeah?
Yeah.
Transformation. Think of the diamond. The immense pressure it goes under from that piece of coal. Mm-hmm. Mastery isn't about what you gain, it's about what you pass down. Mm-hmm. So what's the fire you're lighting for others?
It's transformation. You know? People don't think they can do a lot of things. Like, people doubt themselves. Hell, I doubt myself with a lot of things as well, you know? It's human nature to a degree. And it's also in the way in which we've been brought up in this Australian environment. I mean, you get tall poppy syndrome and things like that. Oh, you know, once you get to success, oh, you just got lucky, you know, you did this, you did that. Bullshit. Bullshit. People who supposedly got lucky went through a shit ton of problems before they got there, you know. They worked hard. But people don't see that. They only see what the media project. And for me, with this now, is that you're being there. The difference is that a lot of people, if you look at any celebrity, look at any name, look at any business person, you know, Richard Branson, God, pick one, Jeff Bezos, you know, all these business icons, they went through shit and they ate shit for years, and then they become good, and then everybody goes, wow, they were so good and they're an overnight success. No, they were like 10 years. And the reason why I highlight these individuals is because they went through a period of time where they just ate shit constantly and they just built it. They didn't give a shit. They knew something was good. This was good, and they built it. When you climb on a mountain, it's the same thing. But the difference is that it's not a multi-million-dollar company, right? It's not a billion-trillion-dollar company, no. But it's a billion-dollar you. And why do I say a billion-dollar you? Is because the difference being able to back yourself and get to a certain point, right, is harder, because everybody's overthinking, I can't do it. And I've had it plenty of times. Being there, part of that journey, and giving them that energy, giving them that space to, you know, be scared, be okay with the idea of not knowing and whether things will work out. And then giving them just that little bit of coaching, put your foot here, put your hand here, do this, do that. When people realize they can do it, they come back. When people realize, you know, the one thing is that the reason why my group hikes have worked so well is because people know that I'm safe. They know I'm not going to act like a fool and do cowboy-like things. And when people realize that you're safe and you're going to come back, they're going to come back home and they're going to tell everybody about that. They tell more people about a positive experience than, you know, how that saying, whereas if someone has a bad experience, they tell multiples of people, whereas if someone has a good experience, they'll tell people, just not as many.
Yeah.
I've got it kind of feels like in some instances I've noticed that it's been the other way around, or very 50-50. I haven't had any bad experiences, touch wood, right? But I've had a lot of good experience, and people have gone and told other people, and it's just, you know.
There's no ego.
No. Ego, you can't have ego there. No.
That's how I feel on the group hikes. There's no ego. Everybody, we're all going to the common sort of ending. We aiming to get to the top, but we get to the top together. We move as a team. We move as a crew. Nobody's left behind. Yeah, exactly. We may be all at different skill levels, and we've climbed more mountains, got a bit more mileage on us or whatever, but we're a team, we're a crew. We're there to get each other collectively from A to B, whatever that mountain trail is. And the ones that choose to turn up, great, we work with. The ones that don't choose to turn up, well, till next time, like when they're ready to face that challenge. There's no judgment, there's no ego. There's none of this macho ideal that goes on, like I've witnessed in some of the other groups I've kind of been around. It's a strong competition, this high alpha sort of male sort of psyche. No. A lot of responsibility in what you do. I mean, one slip with someone and you're juggling someone's life in their hands. One accident.
Some cases it is.
Yeah. One wrong move and it could be a life-altering moment for that person. And that's the responsibility as leaders for this sort of industry that we take on. We're dealing with people's lives here. We've got to take care of people's lives. So immediately that annuls, if I could say that word, the ego. We bring...
Yeah, it does. It does.
We're as much as the student as we are
the teacher.
Because we're constantly learning about other people as much as they're learning about us.
No, for sure. I mean, I've done plenty of hikes where, people are not sure, and I said, that's fine. Not being sure and learning is better than being certain of something, or thinking of being certain of something and being wrong. There's a part of the Rural Fire Service, there's a raft program, which is, I'm currently sort of in the process of going through, and a lot of the skills I've learnt in there, the biggest thing about leadership is, you can have a guy, an officer who's in charge of a rural fire station, or you can have a assistant commissioner. There's been times where assistant commissioners have come out and joined in, or there's a guy as an inspector I know who's pretty well known in that. But when you're in the raft teams, all your pips, all your insignia, they come off. Cross-sectional leadership. There's always one person who is the team leader, but that's because they're the ones that have got more information, and that's fine. But when it comes to final decisions, mate, cross-sectional. If it's either all in or all out. If there's three of you that go, yeah, we want to go down and do this thing, and one person goes, no, I don't like the idea, then they go, nah, not happening. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's make it a compromise. That's how I learnt that, and I thought, that is good, and that is hiking. That is hiking groups. I mean, yes, I can say I'm a hiking leader and I've got experience and I've done this and I've done that, but at the end of the day, if someone is not okay with something, that's the person that's going to have the accident, because they're not feeling okay with something and everyone's pushing on, and then they're going to feel that pressure to perform, and then an accident happens. We don't do that. No. It's simple as that.
We take everybody.
Accountability, yep.
Being responsible. If you vanish tomorrow, what's your legacy? What's your legacy for others?
Oh, good question. This is a
legacy-driven podcast that I'm aiming.
Yeah, no, it is. It's
the guests that I'm bringing on. Legacies up here, like.
Look, I just want people to. If I vanish tomorrow, and the legacy thing is, I just want people to enjoy the trails and come together as a community, come together as a family. And you can attest to this in some parts. I've just come back from 2 months in Brazil, and I'll give the Brazilians as a very compliment. They are the most family-driven people, culture I've ever met, I've ever experienced. There is, I went to, it's funny, I've thought about it since I come back from Brazil. I spent 2 months there. I know you have yourself. The way I've thought about it since is I went over there with 2 parents and I come back with 4. And it's simply like that, I come back with, I got my mum and dad here and I got my mum and dad there. And, that's the way, It is, and you're the same with Marina, yes. And I think it's family, and it's taking that ethos, that learning, that teaching, and then going, let's apply it to this group. And then if something happened to me, you know what? I know someone would be able to look. In many ways, I still feel as though the group's sort of semi-reliant upon me being able to build it. But I'm also seeing now there's a few more people coming in, and they're posting more, and they're creating more. There's a couple of guys that are and they're like, hey Mark, can I do an event? Absolutely you can. Absolutely. It's encouraged, because if people are going out and doing more events, great. That's what I love about it. Why? Because people are coming together. You know, there's no bullshit nonsense. You know, if someone says, "Hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go down and hike wherever, at Kutha or Nagungan or pick one," and people go, "Yeah, I want to do that. Oh, yeah, cool. Meet you here. Great. That's awesome." The only thing I would like is just for them to put photos in the group, but that's the whole point of it. It's coming together. It's that central meeting point and going, "Hey guys, I'm doing a hike down on Mount Barney tomorrow. Who's keen? Who's coming down on the weekend? Who's keen to do that? Camp there. Let's do it." You know what I mean? So it's simple like that, man. But
community. It's all about building community.
Yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely.
And that's probably the biggest lesson. I come back from Brazil. It's like put all the do aside, the rat race, racing around and just be. When my Brazilian familia put a barbecue on, every man and his dog and their families all turn up. And one little small congregation could turn into 3 streets of people turning up with food and beer, and we all have a good time and eat and drink, and it's all community. It's a very humbling experience, and nobody's glued to cell phones or technology. We're all getting back to the basics and just holding that community space and not leaving anyone behind. Familia, I think the term is in Portuguese.
That's it, familia. And that's the thing too, like, it's no... Australia is considered a rich country by a lot of people's, by world standards, as you were. And a lot of people consider Brazil as a poor country, but fuck, I don't see it as a poor country in my eyes, man. I see it as they're rich in food, rich in culture, rich in many, many, many other areas. Fiscally, okay, I get it, but, these are rich things that, fuck, I mean, Australia could take a ticket and learn from this. These developed nations, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, they can take a picture and look at that and go, okay, the culture, Carnival's about to start over there. There are so many things, and this is what I'm saying. This is why I've wrote that recent book of mine as well, man. And one of the reasons why I want to translate into Portuguese and Spanish, and we'll get to that in a moment, but it's for access. If I'm Spanish speaker or a Portuguese and speaker, and I'm native English, people feel shame with English. They feel shame in speaking English or reading. They're not sure of it. I mean, you and I know because we're learning Portuguese, so we've been there, we've done that firsthand, right? And for me, it's making the trails accessible to everyone, regardless. And it's these people, like Brazilians and Colombians, and they are awesome. And they would appreciate the trails probably more than us Aussies. And that's because they've not seen them before, not interacted with them before, so the experience is deeper, more richer, very more special, And it's bringing and it links back to community. It brings it all together. It's tied off. We are conditioned
as cultures to see language, spoken language I'm talking, conscious spoken language as an important key or pillar. And it certainly is. 7% or something of our body language is language if we read people. The main percentage, though, is our unconscious language of what the body speaks. So if we could hypothetically use a simple hiking trail with minimal obstacles, if we were to put 2 guides who can intuitively model step by step to some native Spanish-speaking Colombians or Portuguese-speaking Brazilians or anyone from that South American continent who have not a single clue of English, I reckon these Latinas could be able to do the trail through intuitive modeling. Monkey see, monkey do. You with me? And if we can model, if this comes back to the modeling, absolute modeling, monkey see, monkey do. If you can model the simple stuff, and this is what we've forgotten so bad from culture, is how we learn unconsciously. It's through what we see our elders do, not say. Actions, that's saying that actions perceive words.
Speak louder than words, it's true. Yep.
If we can model the simpler trails, well then we can model the more difficult trails. And then the conscious language becomes less of a barrier, the speaking and the translation of between the bilingual languages, which would then build the self-confidence in these internationals because they're a long way from home. In a country where the self-confidence and the surety is just gone out the door. So there's all sorts of fears and alarm bells going through them, let alone being out on a hike. So to build that confidence that, hey, that I can let go of the conscious language and just follow someone I trust as a model, then my confidence will come up. You with me on that?
Yeah, no, definitely.
We don't need to be worried about going Google Translate and trying to learn each other's languages. It's a significant benefit, however, not a necessity.
And that's the thing too, like, I'm going to give you a really good example, and I do hope she's okay with me. So that friend of mine, the friend Andressa that I took up Mount Edwards last week, very first time, her English wasn't so good. That's fine. Her husband, great English. I communicated with him, and if there was any breakdowns in communication, he'd be able to translate. But for the better part is I was able to speak to her mostly in Portuguese, based on my language learning experience, I guess, based on my studies. But she felt included, and she felt included, and she was, and that it's a small 1%, but fuck me, man, 1% turns to 99% in these instances, but that was like an isolated incident. But then you get a lot of people that are good in English but feel a bit thing. If you have a hiking leader who is very receptive to people like that, or very open to people like that, or very patient in communicating effectively, clearly, so that everything is understood, and even if I think they understand, I'm still going to ask, is there any questions? Do you have any questions? Because there's no such thing as a dumb question. Just one not asked or answered. Simple. And that's the difference. That's why we're talking about inclusivity.
And I mean, Portuguese especially, and the biggest lesson I've learned of Marina, because we've built this whole relationship basically of not speaking each other's languages, and it's had its challenges.
Yeah.
It's interpreting each other's body language and reading each other's body language, and then attempting to speak each other's language, and if not, using a translator for clarity. And that's probably the biggest lesson I've learned from Marina, is she's reading my body language consistently as a survival mechanism, because her English is slowly coming. It's going to take a bit of time, but it's a hell of a lot improved since I met her 2 years ago on Christmas Day.
Of course, man.
She's reading me intuitively, so that goes to show that these guys, whether you're Latinos, Brazilians, Spanish speakers, they can learn. They can learn intuitive. It's a matter of just tapping into that. Monkey see, monkey do, and building that community to build confidence, so that everybody is included and nobody is left behind. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And it takes us to the journey beyond the limits. Life's an expedition, and every step forward is a lesson, including learning about South American Brazilian culture. Yeah, a very humbling experience. You've walked through fire, rebuilt from the wreckage, from your divorce, your PKU. What's the next trail you're carving now? What's next for you?
Yes. Yeah. So look, I've just not long recently wrote a book. It's
Hiking Basics, a comprehensive guide for all beginners.
Exactly. It's a basic guide that it's taken me the better part of 6 to 7 months to create. It's based on some mistakes, silly mistakes, probably more history of mistakes I made when I was younger, perhaps, but just a lot of experience correlated together. Things that I used to see on group hikes a lot, where people would sort of make some mistakes, and while it wasn't a problem, I'd also see it as a potential problem. The thing is that you see in the media every 5-10 minutes, it almost seems like now, and it's been quite a few lately, hikers have gone missing, or they've run out of supplies, or they've been in a world of hurt. And these events totally, I would say they're totally, they're preventable, really. They're preventable because it just that person had no experience on that trail, and that person didn't have the information or the ability to take through a resource. The idea of working in the Rural Fire Service, going through my time with RAFT program, which I'm still involved with, many years of hiking, growing up in far north Queensland, I've at least all this input together, my years and being able to be a hiking group leader, pulling all this information, all these resources together to bring together a resource. And it's basically a resource designed to take someone who's never done hiking before, or coming back to it, who's been away for a while and then coming back to it, and give them everything so that it's a resource not just to give them information, but also to help them think about, okay, I'm doing a hike coming up soon. What am I going to need? What are the things that are going to help me keep safe? What are the systems or processes I can use to help me lighten the load but keep enough items in your backpack to keep you going? And it's a magnitude of things. So I've brought together a resource with a whole heap of checklists, a whole heap of different resources bundled together so hikers can be able to see what's important. And this is important. And prevention by giving people information is the key. Instance.
I think the internet just cut out there for 30 seconds. That's all right.
Yeah.
So basically your books are on, you just don't teach how to navigate these wild mountains. Young, inexperienced or rusty hikers coming back in the fold don't get lost or miss time with weather or supplies. Mm-hmm. If we were to throw the mirror back at the hikers, back on themselves as a self-reflection, mm-hmm. you're really teaching them to navigate themselves, yeah? Would that be fair to say?
You can say that. Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, when you think about, well, we've touched on topics like ego. I mean, getting a bottle of water like this, right, and going, she'll be right, mate. Go out. What happens if you get caught out, right? What happens if the weather changes and you got to hold up overnight? You think this bottle of water is going to sustain you? No. Not on a day. Not in Australia. No way. You know, this book is talking about these things and what could happen. Now, every chapter is so condensed and so packed with energy, with a lot of information, that I've actually gone ahead and created books based on these chapters because there is so much information there. They're not released yet. We are working on a release date for those, but they are in the process, and it's based off this particular element. So I give people the opportunity to go, right, I'm going to go, doesn't matter where you hike, it doesn't matter if you're going for a hike to White Rock or going to well, not so much Tibrigargan, well, even Tibrigargan to a degree, we can say Tibrigargan, but it doesn't matter where we're going. It's being safety focused, it's being conscious and thinking, okay, what am I going to need? What are the things I'm going to be doing? Do I need to let someone know? Do I need to understand these? And that's the whole purpose of the book that I've created now. I have created a couple other books that are based off those chapters, and they're more along the lines of hiking with dogs. We want to take our pets hiking, right? We love dogs. There's a lot of people that love dogs. And so you're thinking, okay, I'm using the same model, thinking about what I need, but now you're going to be thinking, what does my dog need, for example, right? What does the dog need in terms of preparation, fitness? And this is just an example, and it highlights the movement into different areas. Things like navigation, it goes back to the same thing. What am I going to need? How will my navigation, like, what is a contour? What are contour lines? So I've tapped in heavily into that as well, moving forward. So I have resources backed off this main one, but today this particular book that I'm focused on now is the most important one, and the reason why is because once we get that idea in our head to go, okay, this is what we need to focus on, the other books you've already got that sort of mentality. You're thinking, okay, all right, you're just rolling it into a different element. You know what I mean? Like, it makes sense.
Yeah. Self-responsibility, if we break it back down to how much water am I going to need? The first aid kits. Look at my terrain. What's the terrain? What's the weather going to be like?
Exactly.
Is it going to rain? Am I going to get caught? Preparation is the key for these adventures.
In this book, there's so much information. I've got checklists I've got information based on first aid. I've got information based on what are you going to need for day hikes. I've got day hike packing lists. I've got overnight hiking packing lists. First aid kit lists. What to get, what you need, what is essential. I've got things around. I've got documents, how to ability where you can print out these documents, fill in just so that you leave information with your loved ones, so that if there's an incident and someone calls you, if there's an incident, they fail to go to a certain point, if it's an overnight thing, you've got all the information, where they were last, blah, 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 blah. That's what you can use. That's what emergency services will use to go, right, this is what we need to do to get to X, and this is how we're going to do it, right? And I'm also getting people thinking, okay, do I need permits? We're in national parks. Do I need a camping permit? Most of them do. Okay, how do we go about it? It gives people thinking, okay, now I need to Google, Queensland Parks and Wildlife, because I want to go on the Thorsburn Trail. For example, the Thorsburn Trail is off the coast of Ingham, like Cardwell area, far North Queensland area. You need a permit for that. For that trail, you need a permit because they have only a certain amount of people, so they don't cause ecological damage. Things like this. People don't know that until they're, and I'm giving people that opportunity. But see, like I was touching on before, I want to translate this to Portuguese and Spanish, because how many Australians are going to go to these places, but you got our Brazilian friends and our Colombian friends and our South American friends coming over and enjoying this country. They need a resource that is created by an Australian, not just Australians, but for them. So then they're thinking ahead, I need this, I need that, I need this, I need that, right? And it doesn't get them in the trouble at the same time.
Exactly right. Our international friends certainly need a local resource. You're certainly the man for it, to give them that aid. I do believe, and I'm happy to be wrong about this, that a lot of these rescue cases happen around, well, not just around the Sunshine Coast, down Mount Barney, Mount Lindsay, they've been internationals, students, and it comes down to preparations.
I think
the resources. They just go out, I'll just go out with a backpack, some lunch and water bottle, and away we go. Not knowing the terrain, let alone having the technology.
Yeah.
Or know what the day's going to be like, if it's going to rain or not, and having no backup, and wondering why they get stuck.
Yeah.
Luckily, the SES, they've got a phone where they can dial out.
The one thing I will say, in my experience and from what I've recently seen, is that a lot of the people who have gone there and been in trouble are actually the opposite. They're not international students or international tourists or visitors at all. I think it's mostly to do with locals thinking that they know. I've seen a lot of people. Most of the people are all younger people that just don't know enough yet, and they're local. And the reason why I would say they're local is because the one thing I've noticed, and I've learnt this more so by being in Brazil, so I have been an international over there. When I've hiked in Brazil and I've hiked in a lot of places, I've always paid attention to the local knowledge because they're the experts. Right? And I think there's a lot of Brazilian and international friends in Australia. I think they pay attention to the groups and what's going on. I think they're not the kind of people that will go to somewhere that would just put them in a real world of hurt. And then, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think anyone wants to be rescued, but I don't think anyone's gonna. But the one thing I noticed is that these guys they don't do something that's outside of their scope.
No,
and that's good.
Yeah, a lot of the Brazilians I met when I was over there were risk takers. So if they want to jump on a plane and go somewhere, they just find a way and do it.
I mean, taking a risk coming to Australia, that's a risk in itself, I guess. So you are right. But coming back to that, like, I think there is a lot to be learnt here, and giving people that information, the ability to learn from local knowledge is always going to be a good thing. I can see that, Z.